Dr. Philipp Bagus, and he will be followed by Dr. Bagus. Philipp, please.
Well, good afternoon to everybody. Let me first say that it's a great honor and pleasure to speak to you. And I will speak today basically about my PhD thesis. Its title is Deflation is a really harmful theoretical analysis of deflation with two historical examples. And in this speech I will concentrate on the question as it arises: do we need to fear deflation? And to clarify, with deflation I mean price deflation. That is, do we need to fear falling prices? And many people fear it. This question is so important because there exist many errors about deflation, and these errors have led to a deflation phobia, to a fear of deflation, that has served to justify inflationary monetary policies with threatening consequences for mankind. And therefore, it's worthwhile to look on the question if we really need to fear price deflation, and it will be shown that there is no need to fear it. But obviously, to answer this question, we first have to look on the consequences of falling prices. But what are the consequences of falling prices? Obviously, buyers profit. They buy their goods and services more cheaply, and sellers, they lose because they receive less for the goods and services than without the price fall. Well, it occurs that practically all individuals are buyers and sellers on the market of factors of production, of labor services, capital goods, consumption goods, etc. Therefore, when prices fall, basically all win and lose at the same time. However, this is not a zero-sum game, because for some people the buying costs fall faster than the selling proceeds, and these individuals profit. And for others, the buying costs of the things they buy fall slower than the things they sell. Those change in the relative wealth positions in the market. Some lose and others win. And on the aggregate level, of course, we cannot say that this is good or bad, or that it must be feared or welcomed. One important aspect in this redistribution is the redistribution that occurs between creditors and debtors. When prices fall, the real debt burden increases. Thus, the creditors win and the debtors lose. Often they can even get bankrupt. And in the context of this redistribution as a main consequence of the price deflation, it must be pointed out that this distribution effect are not something extraordinary or specific to price deflation, but this redistribution is inherent to all changes in the market data. And the result of this redistribution depends on the entrepreneurial skills of the individuals who can anticipate this change in the data and also the changes in prices. Well, while this is the main consequence of price deflation, let's now turn to the errors about its consequences. These errors that have caused the fear of deflation. I will now explain the 5 most important errors. The first error is that redistribution will be somehow lead to an arbitrary redistribution. The price deflation would lead to an arbitrary redistribution. However, it's not arbitrary. The redistribution depends exactly on the entrepreneurial skills of the individuals, who of course can anticipate the price deflation. Those who anticipate it better than others win, and those who are worse in this entrepreneurial anticipation lose. So there's nothing arbitrary about it. It's not more arbitrary than any profits or losses on the market. Any profits and losses on the market can result from the better or worse anticipation. The second error is to think that price inflation necessarily hampers production. It is certainly true that due to the increase in real debts, bankruptcies are likely to increase. However, the bankruptcy only implies a change in the ownership of the means of production. The means of production themselves do not disappear. So in a bankruptcy, the creditors of the company will take over the means of production. Thus, while the ownership changes, production must not necessarily change. Thus, it depends on the new owners what to do with production. If the investment project is in principle viable, they may just maintain production as it was, even though the ownership has changed. If the project is not viable, of course, they will make necessary readjustments. The bankruptcies are also important because they might actually bring down the fractional reserve banking system. Because there's an increase in real debt, there are bankruptcies, there are loans of the banks return bad, there are losses for the bank, solvency problems for the bank, doubts in the solvency arises, there can be bank runs, bank panics, which could lead to the collapse of the fractional reserve banking system. The third error concerning price deflation consists in the idea that somehow price stability would be something very important in itself. And obviously price inflation is not price stability, therefore price inflation would be bad, and the price instability, cost price inflation would result in a calculation in terms. And this is erroneous, however, as well, because entrepreneurs can calculate without problems the profitability of their projects when prices fall, or when they rise, or when they are stable. They just have to anticipate these price movements. As we all know, in the IT industry, PC production, for example, prices have been falling for decades, and there's nothing even like a calculationary chaos. Fourth error about price deflation consists in the reasoning that price deflation would necessarily cause unemployment as wages would be rigid downwards. However, entrepreneurs can certainly bid down wages in face of expected price deflation. It is true, of course, also that governments can prevent them from doing this, for instance, by granting privileges to labor unions. In this case, however, it's not the price deflation that causes the unemployment, but the government intervention that prevents wages from falling. And indeed, government interventions can always cause too high wages, and therefore unemployment, independent of the general movement of prices. Government interventions in the labor market can cause unemployment when prices are rising or falling, or if they are safe, by granting privileges to the labor unions. Labor unions can always cause too high wages. Actually, one advantage of price inflation might be pressures to abolish these barriers to prices and in order to increase price flexibility. This is so because the involuntarily unemployed might actually protest against interventions in the labor markets. The last error lies in the famous liquidity trade argument. In this argument, it's argued that price inflation is horrible because it can put the economy into a liquidity trap. Economists like Lars Svensson and Paul Krugman are lancing this argument. To show the argument in a liquidity trap, nominal interest rates are close to zero. There are ongoing inflationary expectations, which result in high real interest rates. And as a consequence of the high real interest rates, entrepreneurs do not invest anymore. The solution in such a situation would be, of course, a reduction of the interest rates, but as they are close to zero, the interest rates cannot fall anymore. This is the famous zero bound. They cannot fall below zero. to the central bank is left without ammunition. Well, it would be, of course, a horrible nightmare. The central bank would be left without ammunition. Yet, this security check argument is erroneous. When there are deflationary expectations, entrepreneurs indeed quit investing until prices fall. That is, they try to build down prices. Thus, the price of the factors of production can fall immediately. And for entrepreneurs, investment decisions, the differences between buying cost and selling proceeds is important. So deflationary expectations per se are not a problem, because costs might fall even faster than proceeds are expected to fall. Thus also, with deflationary expectations, there can be investments. Well, someone might ask, well, what happens if entrepreneurs fail to bring down prices? Well, in this case, resources will be just used in other ways. They will not be invested, but they will be used in other ways as favored by the market participants. So to come to a conclusion, deflation is not something inherently bad for the economy. Its main effect is a redistribution of wealth and income that is certainly disfavoring the economic elites of today. But its main effect is not necessarily hampering of production. So right now we have only spoken about the consequences of deflation, but to answer our question, if we need to fear deflation, we might also look on the causes of the fall in prices. For example, growth deflation, that is a deflation caused by increasing economic growth, would we need to fear that one? I don't think so, because most of us would claim that economic growth is something good. The price deflation might also caused by bank revenues, deflationary recession. Actually, this kind of deflation might speed up the recovery during the recession by speeding up the liquidation of malinvestments. And as I had indicated before, it might bring down in the process the fracture of the banking system. So do we need to fear that? No. I don't think so either. We might actually hope for it. Yet another cause of price deflation is government intervention. So there might be, for example, a coercive monetary deflation, collecting taxes and in some ways or another reduce the money supply afterwards. Or price control deflation, that the government is simply decreeing prices to fall. Obviously, this must be considered bad and must be feared, this kind of government intervention. So if we turn to our initial question, do we need to fear deflation? The answer would be, well, yes, when it is caused by government. Otherwise, we might actually think that it has positive effects. So price deflation, foreign price deflation,